Hey crafty friends, welcome back. It is Laura and today I'm going to be sharing 10 DIY Christmas items made using things from Poundland. These are really fun to make and I think it's great to have DIY homemade items as part of your Christmas display. I'm really pleased with how these turned out, and you can pick up the items inexpensively at your local Poundland or maybe try your Dollar Tree if you're in the States. So for this first one, they have these giant baubles in at Poundland at the moment, and they are really fun. They have them in a bunch of different colours and finishes, and the green ones I felt would go well with my decor, but I didn't like the gold tops. And then I picked up just a couple others that I liked the shape of, but not necessarily the colour. So the first thing I'm going to do is apply some primer spray paint all over these. I wasn't too sure how spray paint would stick, so I decided to use a primer first on both the tops of the ornaments and the two that I wanted to change the colour. For all of the tops, I'm going to spray paint them black. I felt that would go better because I don't have any gold in my Christmas decorations. And then for these ones, I'm spraying them bright red. I love these kinds of giant Christmas baubles to fill in spaces and gaps in your Christmas tree. I think that's a really great tip to fill in any sparse areas, and I was really pleased with how these turned out. So you can see here I'm taking a white paint pen. I find it easier to work with than a paintbrush, but you could definitely do this with a paintbrush if you have a steadier hand than I do. And I'm just filling in any of the crevices of the ornament design with the white pen, and I think it just gives it so much more dimension and makes it look like something that didn't cost £1, which is generally what people are trying to achieve when they are working with their Poundland items. I think they look really great as is, but once you add some of this paint, like I'm doing to this green one here, I left it the green colour that I purchased it as and just changed that topper so it was black and then added the white paint, and I think it looks great. So then those were ready to go and I added them into my Christmas tree, and then we can move on to DIY number 2. For this one, I picked up a pack of wine glasses. You get 2 for £1, and then I have a small and a large plate and some epoxy resin glue. This glue is really great. If you see this in your local Poundland, I would recommend picking it up. It is super strong and really easy to work with. You just want to mix the 2 separate solutions together to create that epoxy resin adhesive. And then I'm applying that on the top of this glass. Now, full disclosure, these plates did not come from Poundland. I actually picked them up in Home Bargain, but they were really inexpensive. And they do have plates in Poundland. They just didn't have 2 coordinating small and large plates that I wanted to use for my Christmas tray. So I'm pressing this down and making sure it's centered, and then I'm going to flip it over and let gravity do some of the work of holding that together while the epoxy dries. And then here I'm taking 3 little bottle brush trees and putting them in the center of this plate. I'm going to have a snow globe effect inside of the glass. Now I'm using polystyrene balls as the snow filler. I ended up just pouring them on and then tipping away anything that hadn't stuck. But I wish I'd used snow filler. You'll see me use snow filler later in this video, and I think it would have looked a little better for this tray. So I'm filling up the wine glass with some extra snow, so there is a whole bunch of it in this little snow globe, and then I'm placing the bottom plate with some adhesive to stick that all together. And this is a really simple way to create a tiered stand to add some of your Christmas items. Many of these little resin pieces I actually picked up from Poundland, and I made these gnomes last year, and we'll include a link to how to do that. So now onto the third DIY. I think this is one of my favourites. I'd love to hear what you're DIYing or which one is your favourite in the comments section below, so do let me know. Here I've grabbed these stacking cups and or mugs, I guess, and I've printed out the words naughty or nice in a tall skinny font, and then I'm just covering the back with pencil to create a little template for myself. You could just freehand this, but I think it's really nice to have this like pencil template, and you can use chalk as well. You just want to scribble all over the back of your template and then trace over the front with pencil, and that will transfer the chalk or the pencil lead onto your project so you have a little guide to follow. Here I'm using another paint pen. This one came from Poundland and it is a silver pen. They also had them in gold, And because they're paint pens, this isn't going to be like a permanent cup. It is more of a decorative item. But I have seen people do similar projects to this where they use Sharpies or permanent alcohol markers, and then I believe you bake it in the oven. I haven't tried that, so I can't attest to how it works, but this is definitely a decorative item rather than a functional, usable cup. So once I'd written on all three of the mugs, I keep flipping between mug and cup, I'm sorry, I cut out a circle of foam board to stick inside as a placeholder for my whipped cream. Now this whipped cream is actually polyfiller. It's you can get this like ready to go in a squeezy tube, and I decided to add that to this little syringe here, which again came from Poundland. It's used for icing to decorate cakes. Of course, I won't use it for cake making after this. I don't think it would be great to have anything that you eat in this following having the cork in there. So I just used a decorative nozzle and piped out some whipped cream all over the top of this piece. I used half of a Poundland fillable bauble as a space holder, so I didn't need too much cork, and then I added these tiny sprinkles made out of plasticine. This next DIY needs a whole bunch of candy canes and a candle. It is super simple. You want to grab an elastic. I used a clear elastic because it's what I had on hand, but it will be covered up, so you could use any colour. And then I'm just going to go ahead and place the candy canes inside of the elastic. You could work with string or adhesive for this, but the elastic is so great because you can just stretch it and insert those candy canes as you need to, and I found that this holds it in place really well. You can see here I did go ahead and add another elastic because once I had a whole bunch of the candy canes in here, I was concerned about one of the elastics snapping, so I put in a backup. Once I had it completely filled, I grabbed some ribbon from my stash and I'm just wrapping that around to cover up the elastics and just add a little bit of additional colour to this so it fits in with my red, white and green kind of Christmas theme. So here you have it on my ledge. I think it looks really cute and it's just a fun way to upcycle a candle. Next we have a polystyrene wreath, and this is of course from Poundland, and then I have these cocktail sticks and I'm cutting them in half because I only need them to be half the size, and also I only need them to be sharp on one end. So once I had a bunch of these trimmed down to size, I grabbed a pack of Quality Street. It is a hot topic over here as to which one is your favourite. I don't know what my favourite is. I know my mum's is definitely the strawberry cream, this kind of red one here. Mine, I think, is the green triangles. Anyway, by the by, I'm using some hot glue to attach those cocktail sticks to the back of these, and then I'm pressing them into the polystyrene ring, and I'll speed this up and I just work through kind of filling in the gaps, and I found that one pack of the Quality Street was almost enough to be able to completely fill this polystyrene ring. I did bring in a couple more of those strawberry creams that I happen to have from a previous pack of Quality Street because I don't really like them and my mum does, so I picked them out and saved them for her. I did end up reinforcing some of these with hot glue directly onto the polystyrene because they weren't sticking great with the weight. However, I didn't want to just hot glue them straight to the polystyrene ring because I wanted this to be usable. I wanted to be able to kind of pick the pieces off and be able to eat them. And I'm actually hoping to use this in my gingerbread house decorating, which is a video series that's coming up. Okay, next one, we have one of these rolling pins that you can get for £1 from Poundland, and I've painted the ends white and then I'm painting the middle red. I'm just using a foam brush and some inexpensive acrylic paint and just covering that. I think I did actually do 2 coats of this. And then once it was completely dry, I was able to come back in with my trusty paint pen and add some lettering. I used the same technique that I used earlier on the mugs, where I did create a stencil for this and traced it on first, and then I'm just going over this really slowly. I have this super sped up and I just filled in all of those letters. They're still not perfect, but they're perfect enough for me. So I filled this in with Candy Cane Lane and added some green ribbon. Now this is another really fun DIY. I picked up these flat shoes from Poundland. These ones weren't £1. I can't remember exactly how much they were. Maybe they were £3. They might have been as much as 5, but I think they might have been 3. Anyway, I'm going to create some Christmas pudding shoes. On screen right now is a Christmas pudding. If you've never seen one before, I think it's a kind of a British or maybe European thing. I'm not too sure. But they're kind of fun, and they're also known as figgy puddings. And we have them here at Christmas. We also set them on fire sometimes. So there's a fun thing that you might not have known. But I'm decorating these here, totally inspired by a blog post from Damask Love. I'll have a link to that below, where she made something similar a couple years back. And I'm just using self-adhesive felt for this. I trimmed some wobbly edges for the white icing, and then some leaf shapes for these little leaves. I'm reinforcing those with some Fabri-Tac, I believe that's what it's called. It's a fabric adhesive anyway, just because I felt like they were in like a high flex area in the toes, and I wanted them to hold in place really well. So I think that's a really fun way to make some kind of Christmassy shoes really inexpensively, because you're probably not going to wear these all year round, and I think they turned out great. Next up, I'm making a little bowl centerpiece. I'm actually going to use this in my Christmas corner, but you could use this as a centerpiece on your table. I took one of the Fishbowls from Poundland and filled it up with some of the snow filler. This is the stuff I was talking about earlier that I wish I'd used in my snow globe kind of tiered tray with the wine glass. Anyway, you live and learn. So I'm pouring this in. I needed quite a bit to reach a height where the two ornaments, resin ornaments, would fit comfortably. This is 2 of the resin ornaments from Poundland. Definitely check those out. They have some really lovely resin little decorations. I'm also adding in a bottle brush tree, and you could definitely leave it there, but I decided to add a ribbon. So I have some wired ribbon. I picked this up in Costco. They have really great wired ribbon there. And it's red on one side and green on the other. And I've wrapped it around a book twice. So when I pinch it together, I can pull out 2 bow ends. And I actually want to make this a triple bow. So for the third bow, I wanted it to be a little bit smaller. So I took an additional piece of the ribbon and I'm just hot gluing that together. And then I'm going to add a small, first I'm going to glue this together. So I'm going to glue together the original bow with those 2, what are they called? Loops. With those 2 bow loops on either side. And then I'm going to add a dot of glue into the middle and press this in place. I am using a finger protector for the most part, so I don't burn myself. And then I'm creating this little wrap to go around the center. So you just want to pinch the middle together, and then add a dot of glue on the back and wrap around your ribbon. I turned this inside on itself, so all of the edges were nice and neat and it was a little skinnier. And then I'll just stick that in place on the back. I think this is such an easy way to make a decorative bow. You don't actually have to tie a bow, you just have to kind of fake it till you make it with some hot glue. And then I created some bow ends or tails just using an extra piece of ribbon, and then glued the whole thing onto my bowl, and you have this really cute decorative centerpiece, and I think it looks just lovely on my little radiator cover in my Christmas corner. So here we are with DIY number 9. How time flies when you're having fun. So I grabbed this Christmas tree. This is £2. It is a 2-foot Christmas tree, and it's a little sparse for my liking. So I grabbed a garland. You get this whole long strip of wired garland for £1, and I'm just measuring out what I need to add in some extra branches, I guess, on this tree. So I measured out the length and then cut double that so I could just wrap this around the middle. You don't need any glue because the garland is wired, so you can just wrap it around the tree. I've zoomed in a little so you can see, and I will speed this up. So I just wrapped this around so we were getting kind of 2 branches per cut, and I'm making sure that that's nice and tight in the center so it holds in place. The garland is a slightly different colour and a slightly different texture, but I'm okay with that. I think it kind of adds some interest to the tree. I made sure as I was going through this to kind of fluff up all of the tree branches. I added a little curve to them because again, I think that just makes everything look a little bit fuller and a little bit thicker, and I was amazed by how this turned out. I think for a £2 Christmas tree plus a £1 garland, the difference that it makes is unbelievable. I think it looks incredible. I wasn't sure if I was going to add decorations to this tree, but I think it looked so nice in the end, I just wanted to leave it as it was. I was really pleased with how it turned out. So I did use a metal bucket and some floral foam just to hold that in place, and then covered up the gap at the bottom with some snow fabric, and then used a can of snow spray from Poundland to add some snow to this tree. Honestly, really would recommend giving this a try if you see these in your local Poundland. Okay, now we're on to hack number 10. We've gone hands-free and we're in the kitchen. I picked up a candle from Poundland and I'm melting that in a glass jug inside of some warm water. It did take a while, you want to leave it on a low heat. Then I added a scent that I picked up from Hobbycraft. Make sure you follow the instructions because you don't want to add too much of the scent to your wax or you can cause problems. And you also want to wait until your wax is a little cooler before you add the scent. So now I'm pouring this into these molds to make my own wax melts. I only realized recently that wax melts are just scented candle wax. I don't really know what I thought they were. I texted a couple of my friends and they kind of laughed at me, which, so I think I'm alone in having this epiphany. But there you go. You can definitely make DIY wax melts by melting down a candle, adding some fragrance to it, and then pouring it into a mold. And that is my 10 DIYs for my Christmas corner. I love how festive this little corner looks with the cake stand, the little decorative cups and the rolling pin. I just love how this turned out. I'm really pleased. I will have a few more Christmas decoration DIYs before the end of the season, including a hot chocolate bar and also my big project, which is my gingerbread house. So if you're not already subscribed and you want to see those, do make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified when I post. Thanks so much for joining me for this video today and for sticking around until the end. On screen right now are a couple more videos that I think you might enjoy, and I hope to see you back here again soon for another video. That's all from me today. Bye for now.